My name is Carter. I am 34 years old, and if there is one title I have carried with quiet consistency my entire life, it is the responsible one. Not the favorite, not the troublemaker, not the golden boy, just the reliable background figure. I have always been the one who remembers birthdays, shows up 5 minutes early, and pays my taxes without fail. I work in corporate accounting, live alone in a modest condo in Milwaukee, and I have never been the type to create waves. My family. They are animated, boisterous in that curated way that looks picture perfect on social media, but has more cracks underneath than anyone wants to admit. They sweep issues aside, dress tension in pastel smiles, and have a remarkable talent for rewriting history on the fly. I was always on the periphery, technically part of things, but never centered. The guy invited to weddings, but never asked to stand beside the groom or squeeze into family portraits. My younger brother Logan was the dazzling one. He had charisma for days and a way of turning even the worst mistake into something people forgave. Reckless, spontaneous, and armed with a grin that got him out of speeding tickets and failed college semesters. He dropped out, after 2 years bounced between jobs, and at 28 was back living with our parents. Yet somehow he was still the prodigy. My parents adored him with an intensity that bordered on blind faith. If he stumbled, they called it creative exploration. If I succeeded, it was met with quiet indifference. I had paid off my student loans on my own, kept a single job for 12 years, and even chipped in to help cover their mortgage when my father's hours were slashed during the pandemic. But gratitude never came with those payments, just casual expectation. Still, I never let it show. Or at least I convinced myself I didn't. I kept replying to their texts, showing up to family barbecues, nodding through the same tired jokes about how I needed to loosen up or get a girlfriend already. Part of me clung to the foolish hope that eventually I would be seen not as the backup plan, but as part of the family, not the support beam, not the financier, just a son. That fantasy shattered one October evening over dinner. It all started with a phone call. "Carter, sweetheart," my mom cooed, voice thick with that sugar syrup tone she reserved for moments she wanted something. "We'd really love for you to come to Logan and Ava's engagement dinner. It's going to be such a magical night." Of course, I agreed immediately. Why wouldn't I? I marked the date on my calendar and asked her to send the details. Then came the second part. "And if it's not too much trouble," she added, lowering her voice like it might soften the ask, "we were hoping you could help secure the reservation. Just to hold it, you know. We'll pay you back." Famous last words. I knew what "will pay you back" meant. I had heard it before when I bought them a new water heater, when I covered a car repair, when I fronted the deposit for their anniversary dinner. 3 years ago, the payback never came. But like always, I said yes. I convinced myself it was no big deal. It was Logan's night. Maybe, just maybe, this would be different. I called around until I found a restaurant in downtown Chicago that matched the exact ambiance they wanted: string lights, skyline views, and a private rooftop section. I put down the deposit, $500 non-refundable. I even arranged for a jazz trio as per Mom's subtle hint about how romantic live music would be. The head count was 20, and I handled it all without complaint. The night of the dinner, I arrived precisely at 7 p.m., dressed in my best navy suit. Fresh shirt, polished shoes, cufflinks I had received for my last work anniversary. I brought a bottle of champagne I had spent an hour selecting, and printed a custom card with Logan and Ava's initials embossed in gold. I stepped onto the rooftop, took a breath, and looked around. The space was stunning. Edison bulbs strung above like stars, soft music playing fresh flower arrangements on every table. Logan and Ava stood at the center, surrounded by family and friends, laughing and toasting, the whole scene glowing in golden hour perfection. I approached expecting at least a smile or a nod, something. Instead, Logan looked up, smirked, and gestured off to the side. "Hey, glad you made it," he said, barely acknowledging the champagne in my hand. Then he pointed to a lonely fold-out chair beside a trash can near the edge of the space. "Sorry, this table's for family only," he said with a wink like it was some inside joke. I blinked, surely he was joking. But when I looked at my mom, she just gave me that tight smile she wore when she didn't want to take sides. Dad raised his glass and chuckled. Ava looked past me like I wasn't even there. So I sat. By the trash can, coat still on. I sat there for nearly 2 hours. I didn't take off my coat. I didn't speak. No one came to ask if I wanted to order anything. The waiter passed by, paused, and asked quietly, "Are you with the party?" I nodded. He didn't press. He brought me a glass of water and moved on. From where I sat next to the damn trash bin, I watched them celebrate. Toasts were raised, gifts exchanged, glasses clinked with exaggerated laughter. I watched Logan give a long-winded speech about how lucky he was to be surrounded by his closest people. I saw my mom wipe away tears when Ava called her the mother I always wished for. They had no idea I was still there. Or worse, they did and simply didn't care. Then came dessert, a towering cake with edible gold flakes, sparklers flickering at the top like tiny fireworks. A photographer captured every moment while the jazz band played a slow, romantic tune. The sun dipped low over the city skyline, and I realized not a single person had looked my way for over half an hour. And then the bill came. I watched the waiter approach the main table holding a small leather folder. He glanced around, then glanced down at the card on file. My card. He made his way toward me, voice soft. "Excuse me, sir. The total for the event is $3,218. Would you like me to run the same card for the final amount?" The entire table turned. Logan smirked and leaned back. "Oh yeah," he said casually, "Carter's got it." I looked up. I smiled. But not the kind of smile you give when you're happy. It was slow, steady, and ice cold. "Not my table," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. I was told this was for family only. A stillness hit the room, the kind that snaps the air in half. Logan's expression faltered. My mother frowned. My father sat upright. Ava's father narrowed his eyes. The waiter stood frozen, holding the bill like it was about to explode. "Yes, sir," he said carefully. "You made the reservation." I nodded. I did, and I paid the deposit. But I'm not with them. I'm seated over here. I stood, lifted my coat from the back of the chair, and motioned vaguely toward the trash can. Where I belong, apparently. You could practically hear jaws hitting the floor. No one moved, not a single word from Logan. My mother's mouth opened, then shut. The waiter turned, unsure what to do. "Wait, Carter," my mom finally said, voice trembling. "What are you doing?" I looked her in the eye, calm, just following the seating chart. My mom blinked rapidly, trying to figure out how the situation had spun out of her control. Logan leaned forward, his smirk splintering into frustration. "Come on, man," he said louder now. "Don't be ridiculous. It was just a joke. Lighten up. You always take things so seriously." His voice had that trademark tone, dismissive, smug, designed to make you question your reaction. The room was still. Even the jazz trio had slowed to an awkward stop. I let out a soft breath and shook my head. That's the problem, I said, looking around the table. Everything is a joke as long as I'm the punchline. Ava glanced up for the first time, confusion flickering across her face. Her father, Mr. Whitman, who had stayed mostly silent until now, suddenly spoke. "You invited this man," he said, gesturing toward me, "to your engagement dinner, and you sat him next to a trash can." Logan scoffed and looked to my mother, waiting for her to defend him. She did what she always did. She smiled tight, strained, and offered her fallback line. "Let's not make this a bigger deal than it is. Carter's just being a little dramatic. He's always been sensitive." There it was, the same phrase I'd heard since childhood. Whenever I was hurt, whenever I stood up for myself, whenever something was actually unfair. "He's just tired. He's just taking it too personally. He's just overreacting." No accountability, just excuses. I almost laughed. The waiter cleared his throat again. "Apologies for the interruption," he said gently, "but the restaurant needs to settle the final payment before we close the private section. If the original card will not be used, I'll need an alternate." Silence again. I turned, walking slowly toward the elevator. That was when my dad finally spoke. "Carter, come on, you've already paid half. You might as well just finish it." I stopped mid-step, my hands clenched at my sides. "You're right," I said, turning back around, my voice calm but clear. I did pay the deposit. I made the calls to find the perfect rooftop view Logan wanted. I picked a date around his schedule. I arranged the live jazz. I paid for the floral centerpieces because Mom said plastic would look cheap. I even printed place cards so everyone could sit comfortably. I took a step closer, and what did I get in return? A folding chair next to a garbage can and a fake apology wrapped in a joke. I turned to Logan. "So now you get to figure it out, you and your real family." His face flushed, red heat rising from his neck to his ears. "You're making a scene," he snapped. "No," I replied, steady as stone. "I'm drawing a line." And then I walked away, not to the elevator, to the stairs. Every step down felt like tearing off years of emotional wallpaper. The night air outside hit me like a slap, crisp and sharp. I loosened my tie as I walked, the click of my shoes against the concrete echoing louder than my thoughts. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I wasn't going back. I half expected that to be the end of it. Some awkward text the next day, maybe an email dripping in passive aggression, but nothing I hadn't handled before. I was wrong. When I got home, still in my suit, still gripping that unopened bottle of champagne like a reminder of what the night was supposed to be, my phone lit up. First came a message from Logan. "Seriously, dude, you couldn't just pay the bill and talk to me afterward." Then one from Mom. "You embarrassed us in front of Ava's entire family. Was that your goal, revenge?" Then came a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Ava. Her voice was softer than I had ever heard it. "I know we don't really talk," she said slowly, "but can I ask you something?" "Sure," I replied, cautious. "Did you really pay for everything, the deposit, the flowers, all of it?" I hesitated. "Yeah, I did." Silence. "Logan told my dad that it was your idea, that you offered, that you insisted on paying because you wanted to contribute." I closed my eyes. "That's not true," I said quietly. "They asked, I said yes. I didn't do it for recognition, but I definitely didn't volunteer." Ava exhaled on the other end. "Well, my dad's furious. He said he never would have agreed to the venue if he'd known someone they shoved to the margins was footing the bill." She paused again. "I'm not calling to take sides," she added quickly. "I just thought you should know what's being said. My dad said Logan and your parents made him look like a fool." "I believe that," I said. We hung up. I sat in silence. The fallout had begun. The next day, the family group chat, usually reserved for blurry casserole photos and Happy Friday gifts, lit up like a Christmas tree. Mom, Carter, we need to talk. Please call. Logan, you really messed things up with Ava's family. You owe us an explanation. Dad, this is getting out of hand. Just apologize and let's move on. I didn't reply because it wasn't just about that chair. It wasn't just about the bill. It was about everything before it. The years I had been treated like a utility. The countless holidays I showed up alone, invisible. The favors, the bills, the errands always expected, never acknowledged. Now that I had finally said no, they didn't know what to do with me. And honestly, that was not my problem anymore. It didn't take long for the consequences to spiral beyond our family thread. Apparently, Ava's father, Mr. Whitman, was not someone who took public embarrassment lightly. According to Trent, one of Logan's old college buddies who had always been halfway decent to me, there was a full-blown meltdown at brunch the following day. Mr. Whitman had paid for Ava's private education, helped launch her marketing firm, and coordinated most of the engagement events. He had been promised class transparency and respect. Instead, he found out through a breakdown of the venue invoice that the groom's side had lied about the financial arrangements and publicly humiliated the person actually footing the bill. As Trent relayed it, Mr. Whitman said loudly over his French toast, "If this is how they treat their own blood, what happens when you marry into it?" That sentence hit Logan like a sledgehammer. Within 48 hours, Ava had moved back into her condo to clear her head, and the wedding Pinterest board vanished. Venue reservations were placed on hold. Vendor contracts weren't signed. Mom, in full crisis mode, sent me an email, not a text, not a voicemail, an actual 5-paragraph email with the subject line, "Please." It was syrupy, heavy with manipulation, and somehow managed to tiptoe around every actual issue. She wrote how she never meant to hurt me, how she never realized I felt excluded, and how it would mean the world if I sat down with Logan to smooth things over. But in all 5 paragraphs, one word was conspicuously absent: sorry. Instead, there was, "We didn't realize. You misunderstood. Let's not let one silly night destroy the bond we've built." I stared at that last line for a long time. What bond? The one where I drove 3 hours on Christmas Eve to deliver gifts because Logan wasn't in the right headspace. Or the bond where I canceled my Spain trip 2 years ago because Dad needed surgery and couldn't afford a home nurse. Or maybe the bond where I co-signed the loan for their second car without hesitation, a car Logan took and never returned. I didn't respond. 2 days later, I got a call from my Aunt Meredith, Mom's older sister. Not someone I was particularly close to, but always sharp, always observing. She opened with, "I heard about the dinner." I braced myself. "I'm not calling to guilt trip you," she said, voice level. "I'm calling to say about damn time." I blinked. "Excuse me." She sighed. "I've watched your parents lean on you for everything while Logan walks through life like he's owed applause for waking up in the morning. And I told your mother, this time I'm not playing middleman. You don't need sense talked into you. You need space, and they need to learn what life looks like when their scaffolding finally walks away." For the first time in a long time, someone in my family saw me. Not as a wallet, not as a backup plan, but as a person. That evening, my phone buzzed again. This time it was from Logan. "Bro, Ava's dad just canceled the deposit on the venue, said we're not aligned in values. You need to fix this. Can you help me?" There it was. He still did not get it. Still thought I was a tool in his toolbox, a pressure valve, a bank account with a pulse. No apology, no ownership. Just fix this, so I decided I would, but not in the way he meant. That night, I logged into the old joint account we had set up a year ago when Logan was unemployed. It was supposed to be temporary, a place where I could help him cover utilities until he got back on his feet. Except he never closed it. His gym membership and Spotify were still linked. There wasn't much left in it, just a couple $1,000s. I had stopped transferring money once he moved back home, but I had left that balance untouched. Loyalty, I guess, or foolishness. I moved it all to a new private savings account. Then I called the bank and formally closed the shared line. Clean, quiet, done. The next morning, Logan called me 4 times in a row. I let it ring. On the fifth call, I picked up. His voice was breathless. "What did you do?" I said nothing. "I had a reservation tonight, Ava's favorite place. My card declined. The app says the account doesn't exist." "I know," I said. "I closed it." "You what? You can't just—" "I can," I said calmly. "And I did. You told me I wasn't family, remember? You don't get to use my money if I don't even get a seat at the table." He stammered, scrambling for a counterattack. "Come on, man, don't do this. You're just jealous. Admit it. You've always hated that I got the attention. Now you're throwing a tantrum because Ava's dad took my side." I actually laughed. "Oh, Logan, you really think he's on your side?" Silence. Then I said, "Don't worry, man. You'll figure something out. You always do. Maybe Mom can open another line of credit in your name. Or maybe Ava's dad can show you what accountability looks like." And I hung up. I didn't care what he did next. A few hours later, my inbox pinged. It was an email. From Ava. Subject line, "I think we need to talk." I stared at Ava's subject line for a while before clicking it open. "I think we need to talk." It had that weighty tone, the kind you feel more than read. Something definitive, something final. The message was longer than I expected. Not angry, not defensive, just measured, controlled, honest. She opened with an admission. "I didn't realize how badly you were treated at the dinner until it all exploded. I was too wrapped up in the moment trying to make everything picture perfect. I didn't step back to see the full picture." She explained that her father had been livid not just because of the deception, but the principle of it. He had reached out to the restaurant directly requesting a full breakdown of the charges. When he saw my name on every transaction, florals, musicians' deposit, it shattered the version of the story Logan had told. Because Logan had lied. He said I had insisted on paying, that I had requested a seat by myself because I was introverted, that I left early due to a work emergency. But then Ava contacted the venue herself. She spoke to the waiter. She saw the place card that had my name folded neatly next to a trash can. The story fell apart, she wrote, fast. And then came the line I didn't expect. "I ended the engagement last night." I sat back staring at the screen, unsure if I had read that right. Ava continued, "It wasn't just about the dinner. It was about what the dinner revealed. The entitlement, the gaslighting, the constant minimizing of every concern I had. You were the only one who responded with dignity. Everyone else tried to laugh it off. She wasn't blaming me. She wasn't even asking for anything. She just wanted me to know that she saw it now clearly, painfully. I'm not writing this to take sides or cause more drama. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I read that email more times than I'd like to admit, not because I didn't believe it, but because I wasn't used to being believed. For once, someone didn't tell me I was overreacting. They saw the full scene, and they acknowledged it. Over the next few weeks, things got eerily quiet. The family group chat, once a parade of holiday emojis and chain messages, went silent. Logan called once or twice more. I didn't answer. Then he stopped trying altogether. Word trickled down through Trent and others that Logan had moved back in with our parents. Ava returned the ring. Her father issued formal cancellations to the venue and vendors. A few of Logan's social circle, especially the ones who had latched on to Ava's connections, drifted away entirely. And I exhaled. Deeply. For the first time in years, no one was expecting me to show up, fix something, or swallow the insult with a smile. One Sunday morning, a quiet knock came at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, I saw my mother standing on the porch, wrapped in a long cardigan, holding a glass container of lasagna like it was a peace offering. Her eyes were puffy and her foundation was worn thin at the corners of her eyes. I didn't say anything. She spoke first. "I brought you dinner." I didn't reach for it. I just wanted to talk, no excuses. That part surprised me. I opened the door just enough to let her in. She sat at the kitchen table the same way she used to when I was a kid and had gotten in trouble for talking back to a teacher. But this time, there was no scolding, no sighing, no dismissive. He didn't mean it. She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting. "I owe you an apology." I crossed my arms, just one. Her mouth tightened, but she nodded. Probably more than one. She took a breath. I didn't see it, not because it wasn't there, but because I didn't want to. "Logan, he's always been loud. He takes up space. You never asked for anything. You just did. You handled things. You showed up. I think we started treating you like a safety net." I said nothing. She glanced up, eyes glossy. "That's the thing about safety nets, they're invisible until you need them. And then you forget they're even there until one day, they're gone." I finally spoke, my voice calm. "People only look at the net when they're falling, never when they're climbing." She exhaled, blinking fast. "Your father and I were wrong. We let Logan get away with too much. We let him treat you like a side character. I know I can't fix that. I know a lasagna and a sorry don't erase years. But I wanted you to know. I see it now. I watched her, really watched her. And for once she wasn't dodging, she wasn't playing referee. She wasn't asking me to forgive Logan. She was just quietly, humbly owning it." I nodded. "Thank you." She left shortly after, didn't ask me to call Logan, didn't ask me to come over. She just hugged me lightly, said, "Take care of yourself," and drove off. Things didn't magically heal after that. But they didn't break further either. My parents started texting me separately, short, polite messages. My mom invited me to Thanksgiving. "Only if you feel up to it," she wrote. "I haven't decided if I'll go." Logan, from what I hear, is back at a job he hates, living rent-free, avoiding mirrors. He hasn't reached out. And I'm okay with that. I finally took that trip to Spain. I started reading again, seeing a therapist not because I'm broken, but because I'm rebuilding. I bought myself a new pair of headphones, and for the first time in my life, I'm not sitting next to the trash can. I'm at my own table. And this one has my name on it.